All right, Shalom. I want to start by saying, call Lord Yahawah, BAHASHAM, YAHAWASHI, BAHASHAM, Kakadash. Double honors to the apostles of Israel, aka the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and love to all the Akim. Continue to preach His truth and all truth and sincerity. All right, so I came across this article today, and this is from Newsweek, and it reads, Map tracks U.S. aircraft carrier heading toward Middle East. Now, that's the title of the video, but as you go to show, I'm reading the article, but I just going to show how you gotta look at what they're doing instead of what they're saying. Because if you listen to what they're saying, they make it seem like nobody wants no war. But yet, for some reason, somehow Trump, America, what have you, they keep sending things over to the Middle East. Why? Why is that? If everything was going so good to where like you're not going to come into war. Now, obviously, we know they're going to go into war because it's prophecy, but that go to show how they just full of shit. And when they talking to the public, how they just bullshitting the people, man. Not saying that like, we're gonna go to war with Iran. Yeah, they say they're a little bull. But they say shit in code. But look at their actions. Why are you sending an aircraft carrier to the Middle East? An aircraft carrier carrying what? Aircraft, nuclear missiles, military weapons. And this came out, today, May 19th, 2025 at 3:23 a.m. Okay, so since they're 7 hours ahead, so it says the aircraft carrier USS Nimitz was tracked leaving the Western Pacific Ocean as it transited toward the Indian Ocean, indicating a possible deployment to the Middle East. It says Newsweek contacted the U.S. 7th Fleet, which maintains the country's naval presence in the Western Pacific and the Indian Oceans for comment. It says the U.S. Navy has redeployed a number of warships. They have redeployed a number of warships. Hold up. I'm going to go on the blue letter real quick. Get a quick preset. Come on, man. You know what? I'm gonna start at verse 9. This is the book of Joel, chapter 3, verse 9, and it reads, I'm reading NLT. It says, say to the nations far and wide, get ready for war. Call out your best warriors. Let all your fighting men advance for the attack. And that's what they're doing. They're advancing for the attack. They're getting on the ready. And we go into regular King James says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, because why? The Gentile nations are about to get ready to go to war. And that's going to entail and be the World War III. The third world is coming quickly, mentioned in the book of Revelation, 11th chapter. This is what we're seeing play out before our very eyes. So it says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war. Wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. Verse 10 of Joel chapter 3. Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I'm strong. Now, since they're sending stuff over there to the Middle East, let's go into verse 11, because that's actually the one I want to bring up. That's the point. Joel chapter 3, verse 11. Assemble yourselves. Assemble. Hold on, let's go into the word assemble. Transitive. It says collect into one place. And what is that place? It says the valley of Jehoshaphat. That's where the Lord is having all the nations go, which is where? The Middle East, henceforth by Jerusalem. It says to meet or come together, join, unite, gather. Hold up. We go to verse 11 of Joel chapter 3, it says, assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about. Thither cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord. And you read that in NLT, it says, come quickly, all you nations, everywhere, gather together in the valley And now, O Lord, call out your warriors. Verse 12, it says, this is NLT, it says, let the nation be called to arms. Let them march to the valley of Jehoshaphat. There I, the Lord, will sit to pronounce judgment on them all. And that's where they're going. And it says, map tracks U.S. aircraft carrier heading toward Middle East, which is weird. That's where the Valley of Jehoshaphat is, in the east. A lot of it said this is the seventh one. Oh no, that's the seventh fleet. But anyway, so it says the U.S. Navy. Now hold up. Now, since it's Book of Joel, it said, gather, assemble yourselves, all ye nations of war for war. It says the U.S. Navy has deployed a number of warships, including a Nimitz sister ship, the USS Carl Vinson, from the Western Pacific Ocean to the Middle East, amid tensions between the U.S. and Iran, as well as the now halted combat operations against the Houthis in Yemen. They're fighting in the Middle East as we speak. You still got Amalek bombing the hell out of Ishmael. It says the Nimitz, the oldest American aircraft carrier in active service, was dispatched from its home port on the U.S. West Coast for a scheduled Western Pacific deployment in March. It has been operating in the contested South China Sea since earlier this month. Fuck. Oh, gosh, man. Oh, bear with me. Okay, here we go. It says, Allie's fucking with my eyes. It says the retasking of U.S. naval ships assigned to the Western Pacific Theater comes as China, now processing the world's largest navy, by hull count with more than 370 vessels, expands its military reach and presence in the region, attempting to challenge American naval dominance. But what did the Lord say? Hold up. Since the Lord said, oh shit, wrong app. Since the Lord said, proclaim you this among the Gentiles, right? Prepare war. And that's clearly what they're doing. Navies, Air Force, Army, Marines, so on and so forth. Get a quick precept. This is the book of Obadiah, chapter 1. I believe it's verse 15. Where's the data look? Yeah, this is the book of Obadiah, chapter 1, verse 15. It says, for the day of the Lord is near upon all the heathen. As thou hast done, it shall be done unto thee. Thy reward shall return upon thine own head. All the heathens had what? A part in Israel's downfall, and a part of Israel's affliction, and a part of Israel's captivity over here in America especially. But when you go to the NLT, it says, Edom destroyed, Israel restored. And it says, Obadiah chapter 1, verse 15 in the NLT. The day is near when I, the Lord, YAHAWAH BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI, will judge all godless nations. All these other nations are godless nations. They don't have a living God. As you have done to Israel, so it will be done to you. So it says in the NLT, it specifies who is being, it says what shall be done come upon your own head. As it's in the King James verse, it says, judge all godless nations as you have done to Israel, which is who? Jacob, the children of Israel, the tribes. As you have done to Israel, so will it be done to you. All your evil deeds will fall back on your own heads. And that's what you're seeing take place. And that's what the Lord is preparing to happen to these heathens. He's having them get ready for war. They think, one of them is next up to rule on the earth. And he's going to throw a monkey wrench in their shit. And he's going to destroy these nations and their armies. And he's going to destroy their dominion over Israel. Because he said, as you have done to Israel. So the Lord is coming back to what? Redeem the Israelites. So going back to the article, it says the retasking of U.S. naval ships assigned to the Western Pacific theaters comes as China, now possessing the world's largest navy. China is also what? Moab, which is who? A heathen. By hull count with more than 370 vessels, expands its military reach and presence in the region, attempting to challenge American naval dominance. That means what? The American Navy is over in that area. It says open source data from the website Marine Traffic shows that the Nimitz was last tracked in the Strait of Malacca on Sunday, which was yesterday, heading from the South China Sea toward the Andaman Sea in the Indian Ocean. The aircraft carrier is now listed as out of range and cannot be tracked. It says the U.S. aircraft carrier was photographed by a ship spotter in Singapore as it passed through the Singapore Strait the previous day following operations in the South China Sea. Photos released by the U.S. Navy also show USS Gridley, a destroyer assigned to the carrier strike group led by the Nimitz, transiting the Strait of Malacca. The Gridley was on scheduled deployment in the 7th Fleet operating area, according to a photo caption. While the Nimitz left the Western Pacific Ocean, its sister ship, the USS George Washington, remained at its home port in Yokosuka, Japan, as of Monday, which is today, according to a local government website that tracks visits by the U.S. nuclear-powered naval ships to Yokosuka. U.S. nuclear-powered. See, that word is going to be getting tossed around more and more. Nuclear war. World War III is going to be a nuclear war. Those plowshares beating into swords are those nuclear missiles modern day. Those nuclear missiles, aka the arrows, that's going to be shot to and fro across the earth. These very things that these aircraft carriers carry, these drones are going to carry, these submarines, all that shit, man. All the nations in the armies are getting ready for war with each other, and then ultimately war with YAHAWASHI. It says, in addition to Carl Vinson, a second U.S. aircraft carrier, the U.S. Harry S. Truman was sent to the Middle East, where it has been operating in the Red Sea. Now, what's been going on in the Red Sea? They've been fighting against the Houthis. It says, where it has been operating in the Red Sea. A satellite image shows that Harry S. Truman transiting the Suez Canal in Egypt on Saturday on a northward voyage. Oh, it's the Suez Canal. That's all in that region of where the Lord said, what, the Valley of Jehoshaphat and all that stuff is going to take place. The Middle East. America is sending their military equipment and artillery, what have you, military to the Middle East. Just as the prophecy said. Assemble yourselves. Go into the Valley of Jehoshaphat. There will I sit and judge all the heathen round about. That's where they're going. That's what's about to happen. The prophecy spoken of in Joel, the 3rd chapter. The prophecy spoken of in what? 2nd Esdras, the 13th chapter. Where the great multitude fight against the Lord, Yahawashi. It said the aircraft carrier completed its canal transit as it was operating in the Mediterranean Sea on Sunday, supporting U.S. naval forces in Europe. According to photos released by the U.S. Navy, it was not clear whether its sister ship, the Carl Vinson, remained in the Middle East. It says the U.S. 7th Fleet previously told Newsweek the Nimitz carrier strike group, when its accompanying carrier air wing and surface combatants, provides presence and combat-ready forces to the theater. Assets assigned to the U.S. 7th Fleet operate alongside allies and partners every day to deter aggression and maintain security in the Indo-Pacific. So it seems what they're preparing for war. Security, and that area is on security. What? That's Moab. Hold up. Matter of fact. Hold up. That made me think of something. Since China and Esau and all these nations, they in the mix a lot. Now, this is the book of Psalms, chapter 83, verse 1. It says, Keep not thou silence, O Yahawah BAHASHAM YAHWASHI. Hold not thy peace and be not still, O Yahawah BAHASHAM YAHWASHI. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. When you go into NLT, it says, don't you hear the uproar of your enemies? Don't you see that your arrogant enemies are rising up? And that's what they're doing right now. You see the pride of Esau and Trump? You got this bitch, what's the bitch name? Something, damn, I just forgot the bitch name. She was on the Piers Cohen talking about how she used the N-word. And she talked about, niggas talking basically shit about Jake. It says, verse 3, and I'm reading the NLT of Psalm chapter 83, verse 3. It says, they devise crafty schemes against your people. Against your people. Against whose people? The ones who live in God's people, the Israelites. Who is the one true living God? Yahawah, BAHASHAM, YAHAWASHI. And David is talking about these heathens conspiring against the Israelites, which was they doing those summits, what these devils do in their little fucking Congress meetings, and then they come up with legislation that will affect Jake. All this shit with the DEIs, the ICE, getting rid of all the benefits that that Jake be on, Section 8, even though these heathens and these Edomites be on it as well. But what they always targeting what? Jake. Because you got a bunch of illegal immigrants over here in this land that's not Israelites, but they're the heathens. But they're not focusing on them. They focus on who? The Israelites. Because it's against his people. It's this crafty counsel against the Lord's people, Israel. It says they conspire against your precious ones. Who are the Lord's precious ones? The Israelites. And these devils and these heathens conspire every day to crafty counsel against the Israelites. That's why the Lord is now throwing monkey wrenches in their shit, especially with these storms. You see what just happened over there in Kentucky? I believe Kentucky. What was it? Kentucky, Nebraska, I want to say. You got these devastating storms. I'm talking about devastating storms. You had the one guy watching one of the apostles' videos. The guy said that because he's watching news coverage of it, he said basically, yo, it could be whole blocks destroyed. Whole blocks from this storm that just happened a couple days ago. I want to say Saturday or Sunday. You had I think it was a tornado. So that's the Lord, Yahawah, BAHASHAM, YAHAWASHI, judge of you heathens, man. That's why the Lord said, the day of the Lord is upon all these heathens, and her judgments beforehand, and the wicked of our people. But continuing on, it says, I'm going to read that in NLT. This is Psalms 83 and 4. Chapter 83, verse 4. It says, come, they say, let us wipe out Israel as a nation. We will destroy the very memory of its existence, man. And that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to exterminate the Israelites. And these nations are right behind Esau. Because you don't see them coming to our aid. Because you see you see how the world is in an uproar about what Amalek is doing to the Palestinians. But here it is, what has been done to the Israelites for centuries. They've all conspired together against the Israelites. We have no army. We have no country. They're in our land. We got to go to the heathen for help. They got all these heathens got their businesses in Jake neighborhood, profiting off of Jake. And that's another way how they cut us off from being a nation. But it's what? Part of the curses. When you go to Deuteronomy 20th chapter, says what? The stranger shall get high above thee. So these nations can't come over here, come into the daughter of Babylon. It said the nations were made rich. Israel wasn't made rich off of the daughter of Babylon. These heathens were. That's why the Lord said the day of the Lord is upon all the heathens and all the ones of our people that want to be like heathens. But ultimately, the day of the Lord is upon the actual Gentiles, the actual people that are not Israelites, including those small heads over there in the land of Israel now. Verse 5 of Psalm chapter 83 in the NLT, it says, yes, this was their unanimous decision. They signed a treaty as allies against you. Because when they come against the Lord's people, they're coming against the Lord. That's why the Lord is going to say, he says he's going to return upon their own head. Hold up, here where it gets good. So you know how we got China, how we got Ishmael, we got Moab, we got Ishmael, we got Esau. They're all major players in this wars right now. So look what they said. So the Lord said all these nations that crafty counsel, right? So in the book of Psalms, chapter 83, verse 6, it says, these Edomites and Ishmaelites. So what is the Lord doing to these Ishmaelites right now? Giving them hell. Oh, free Palestine, free Palestine. That was the Ishmaelites. And what did the Lord say? The power of death is with the Lord. So the Lord is having these small hats and what have you do what they do to these Palestinians, which are Ishmaelites. And there's no Allah to save them. Because if there was, wouldn't you think he would have acted by now? I mean, it's been 2 years since this war's been going on. At least we know why we're getting fucked up. The Lord gave us the cause on why we're in the present predicament we're in under these nations. Did Allah give Ishmael the reason why they're able to get their asses handed to them by them fucking small hats over there? BB and them? I didn't hear no prophecy in the Quran about this. So it says, yeah, these Edomites and Ishmaelites, Moabites and Hagarites, which are also part of Ishmael, because it goes into Ishmael's mom, Hagar. And it says Gibeonites, Ammonites, and Amalekites, and people from Philistia and Tyre. So you fucking Hamites. So Hamites, Ishmaelites, Ammonites, or fucking Japan is in the mix too. Japan is in the mix. Because I believe, I think it said, what it said that in the presence in the Pacific Sea, they said Japan is U.S. ally. So the Lord got all y'all pegged for judgment, man. You all have targets on your back from Yahawah BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI, and it's not going to stop. And soon enough, the Lord is going to redeem his people and lift up his people out of this captivity and put us on top again and keep us on top forever, for eternity. So this is it for you heathens having the upper hand over the Israelites. That's why the Lord told Esau to rejoice and be glad. So you other heathens, you better enjoy this too. Because once Yahawah comes back, it's over for y'all too. Y'all not gonna get the same judgment as Esau gonna get, but you're gonna get put down. You're gonna be put down in a lot of notches. Ain't gonna be no more UN summit meetings, all that shit. Ain't gonna be none of that. G20, G7, ain't gonna be none of that no more. It's gonna be the council of Yahawah BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI and the Israelites ruling on the earth, and the law, statutes, commandments being the law of the earth. And judgments as well. And judgment will go forth. Judgment will go forth, and speedily. Because right now the Lord's law is slack. The law is slack because why? The Israelites are not in power. Yeah, hold up. Is there any more in that? A little more in this article. Oh, come on. So this says this is U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said in a May 5th news release. Freedom of navigation is basic. It's a core national interest. The minute the Houthis say we'll stop shooting at your ships and we'll stop shooting at your drones, this campaign will end. But until then, it will be unrelenting. So that's what's going on right now, unrelenting war. Because the Houthis ain't stopping, the Amalekites ain't stopping, America ain't stopping. Because what? This is the day of the Lord. The day of the Lord is at hand. What will if I be yet already kindled? When the Lord comes back, the nation already going to be fighting. Remember, the scripture said what? They're going to stop fighting each other and fight against the Lord. And this is the spirit of the Lord on these nations now. And it says, what happened next? It says, it remains to be seen whether the Pentagon will sustain its naval presence in the Middle East by deploying 2 aircraft carriers, the Nimitz and Carl Vinson, simultaneously. And that was in an article. So yeah, man, they in the Middle East. They're assembling themselves. They're gathering. They're gathering. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles. Prepare war. And what are they doing? Preparing war. Here it is. You got Trump talking about, oh yeah, the Trumps are going good. The talks are going good with Iran, but yet you keep sending war stuff over to the Middle East, as if you're about to ready to fight with them. So don't look at what they're saying. Look at what they're doing. And not just the Middle East, you got over there in the China area, you got the Russia-Ukraine thing going on, you got a bunch of skirmishes, you got a bunch of turmoil over there in the earth. And you got turmoil here in America. You got a civil war brewing in America. Hey, man, that's it. That's it right there. And it's going to continue. But, with that, Lord willing us is edifying. I want to give all praises to Yahawah, BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI, BAHASHAM KAKADASH. Double honors to the apostles of Israel, aka the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and love to all the Akim. Continue to preach the truth, and in truth, truth and sincerity. Shalom. But Baruch 4:24. That's right. Let me get that. One of my favorite joints, Tasha. That's one of my actual favorite books and chapter. Matter of fact, the water. That's a spirit. And then I'm going to close it after this. Okay. Hell yeah. So it's a book of Baruch. Ah, shit. This is the book of Baruch, chapter 4, verse 24, and it reads, like as now the neighbors of Zion have seen your captivity, so shall they see shortly your salvation from our God, Yahawah BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI, which shall come upon you with great glory and brightness of the everlasting. And that's what's coming. That's what's on the way. The water for that. That's a great precept, man. They about to see the strangeness of our salvation. Just like they seen the straightness of our captivity, how they was able to have an upper hand over us. Yeah, Black Dollar. Go to the niggas, the minorities. Yeah. They didn't consider the latter end. So they thought that it was just going to be like this forever. Verse 25, it says, my children, which are the Israelites, suffer patiently the wrath that has come upon you from Yahawah BAHASHAM YAHWASHI. For thine enemy had persecuted thee, but surely thou shalt see his destruction and shalt tread upon his neck. And that's what we're seeing right now, starting with the destruction of America. We're seeing America being the Lord systematically breaking America down. You got all these businesses closing, all these restaurants closing, the whole jobs being lost because of the AI, the automated shit. All these factors are leading towards America's downfall. Verse 26 says, my delicate ones have gone rough ways and were taken away as a flock caught of the enemies. Be of good comfort. Verse 27 says, be of good comfort, O my children, and cry unto Yahawah BAHASHAM YAHWASHI, for ye shall be remembered of him that brought these things upon you. So who brought this upon us? The Lord. So that's the reason why we went into slavery. That's the reason why we're the first fired, last hired. That's why we're oppressed. That's why we're driving while black, so-called driving while black. Discriminated. All of that. That's all going to what? The curses, man. But the Lord said, what? He about to lift them off us. He about to give us salvation back. All right. It says, for as it was your mind to go astray from Yahawah, so being returned, seek him 10 times more. And that's what we're trying to do right now. And that's going to start with the elect. Because the elect are the ones that's woken up on this side. And the elect are the ones that's going to be delivered up out of this destruction. With the names Yahawah BAHASHAM YAHWASHI. In the time of Jacob's trouble. In the time of America's destruction. In the time of right now we're in. Lord will not hope to be part of the elect. Verse 29, it says, for he that have brought these plagues upon you shall bring you everlasting joy with salvation. So this ain't the end all be all. And that's not talking about them fucking small heads over there right now. They got their fatness of the earth. They got their chance to rule. That don't apply to them. Where they need to be delivered from? They're in the land, for crying out loud. The Lord said he's going to deliver us out of captivity and place us back in the land. The Lord said we were moved out of the land. We were rooted out. So how the fuck y'all in there talk about you, the children of Israel, and he waiting for the Messiah to come back and deliver you what? For what? You're the one causing the hell. You own everything. You run the world. And it says, verse 30 of Baruch chapter 4. It says, take a good heart, O Jerusalem, for he that give thee that name will comfort thee. And what's the part of the comfort us now? The truth. Ultimately, the names Yahawah BAHASHAM YAHWASHI to comfort us in this freaking hell, man. Because we're still in hell. It says, verse 31, it says, miserable are they that afflicted thee and rejoice at thy fall. And that's what we're seeing right now. Because right now, even though these Edomites are in their pride, they're still miserable at the same time. That's why they all crying like they are right now. Oh, make America great again. Oh, we got to do some war. We got to take our country back. You can have your country. This all going to be thermonuclear destroyed anyway. What are you going to do about that? That's what they don't talk about. Trump be talking about the thermonuclear war. They want to talk about what's going on here, but they don't want to talk about what's coming to here. The whole world is getting ready for nuclear war, including America. And these fucking rich Americans, including Trump, all these fucking people that you thought had your back, all these officials, they're going to go underground in these bunkers. You heard how they spent the $21 trillion building an underground society with a transportation system to and take a case of a near extinction event to help protect the rich and powerful. But they don't give a shit about you regular citizens. It says, verse 33, it says, for as she rejoiced at thy ruin and was glad of thy fall, so shall she be grieved for her own desolation. That's what we're seeing right now, the desolation of these nations, man. Starting with Esau, Edom. But all these nations are their desolation because now they're about ready to nuke each other. So how could you be a superpower after you all nuke each other? And once you start shooting off nukes, Yahawashi comes back. You hide underground, you still got to deal with the judgment from Yahawashi. So at the end of the day, it's still hook, line, and sinker against you. And it's for the Israelites. The Israelites is going to be the time for the Israelites to shine. The brightness of his coming is going to be shined upon the Israelites, starting with the elect. And that's what we're waiting for. And that's the day that's approaching quickly. Preach ye that the kingdom of heaven is nigh. The day is at hand. Though it tarry, wait for it. It shall surely come. It will not tarry. At the end shall speak. And now the end is speaking. By way of nuclear war, cryptocurrency, the MOTB, palm payments, biometric scanning. All that is called what? Prophecy, according to prophecy that's in the Bible, man. No other book. No other so-called religion. These other religions, they're all part of the system. You don't hear fucking Elam talk about, yeah, whatever the fuck the elephant said, nah. You don't hear the Chinese talk about Buddha said, nah, we can't get down with that. That's not according to our God's prophecy. We're telling you that what you're gonna do is in our book. And y'all in the book too. And your judgment that's coming, just like the judgment that happened to us is in this book. How we was going to go into captivity for our disobedience. You're going to go into captivity for what you did to the Israelites. And then you're disobedient because you're not going to be able to follow the laws 100% in the kingdom to come. Which means that's how you're going to receive your judgment. You're going to be under these curses. Deuteronomy 30:7. The curse shall befall our enemies. Which means what? You're going to be subject to sin. You're going to be subject to sin like a motherfucker. And that's going to be eternity. And you're born, you die, you're reincarnated, you die, it's the same thing. Just like how we here in captivity, y'all going to be in our kingdom in captivity. And it's prophecy. And it says, for I will take away the rejoicing of her great multitude, and her pride shall be turned in the morning. That's what's about to be happening. It's on a small scale now, but once that destruction comes, once these Edomites really see that it's really over, once they see like, yo, our country is through, it's gonna be no coming back. We're coming to a point of no return. And really that ultimate point of no return is when those nukes get shot over here. Because obviously not gonna survive that. That's why they built them bunkers. That's why that's why a lot of these celebrities moved out of America. That's why they have all these bunkers. That's just prophecy too. They're going to go underground. But I'm going to leave at verse 35. It says, for fire shall come upon her from the everlasting, long to endure, and she shall be inhabited of devils for a great time. What fire? That nuclear fire. And the ultimate fire YAHAWASHI is bringing. Remember the Lord said he destroyed the world once with water, but this time it's going to be fire. And that nuclear fire is going to come to America and completely annihilate it. And then there should be no more. It will be no more America. It will be no more Esau's kingdom. And no more these nations, these Gentiles under Esau ruling over the Israelites. All of it's done. You're done. You're almost at your expiration date. You're almost at that border that you can't pass. So with that, I'm going to say shalom.